Thank you, Ms. Hanks. Mr. Conforti, will you please take this from here?
Good afternoon, Board. This is Darren Conforti, Executive Director of Budget, and I will go through this information that we've provided to you here. This is in response to the Board's request yesterday to see what the immediate impact would be to each of the state categories based on the funding level that was approved in the County Council adopted budget. So I'll go through this state category by state category. The information that's in front of you here gives you the breakdown of what the approved budget was in fiscal year 20, shows you what the the BOE request was for FY21, and then columns show you the year-over-year dollar change as well as the percent change. And then the yellow highlighted column is the column that we'll be focusing on, comparing that column to what's in the BOE requested column. And then the column adjacent to that shows you what the dollar difference is between what the council adopted versus what the BOE requested. So in state category 1, the BOE requested $202,977 new dollars of funding for fiscal year 21. The County Council adopted budget held the funding for fiscal year 21 at the fiscal year 20 level, so there were no new dollars approved, and that's reflected in the last two columns that you see there. So you'll see zero values in those columns because the council did not approve any funding for that. The immediate impact of that is there will be no dollars available in this category to pay for any of the salary increases. Moving on to category 2. The category 2 BOE request was actually a slight decline year over year due to some adjustments related to contracted service costs. And in this case, the County Council approved the budget at, again, the same funding level as fiscal year 20. So there was a slight increase of $70,012. There's no immediate impact based on the council adopted funding for this because it is at the level that the BOE requested. State category 3. This category had a BOE requested new funding level of $7.9 million. The council adopted budget approved at the BOE requested level. So you can see there in the second gray shaded column, an increase of $7.9 million. So council funded at the level requested by the BOE, no immediate impact based on that funding level. However, this is where most of our, all of our general ed instructional wages are. So because the salary portion of this is funded, doesn't mean that all of the costs associated with giving those increases are funded, because there are benefit costs that are not included in this $7.9 million. They're included down in category 12, and I'll address that when we get to category 12. Moving on to state category 4, the BOE requested the dollars of $501,000 for fiscal year 21. The council approved at the BOE requested level, so there would be no immediate impact based on what the council approved. The same situation for state category 5, other instructional costs. New requested dollars were $672,000 approximately, and that amount was funded in the council adopted budget, so no immediate impact. State category 6, our special education category, was the category that had the largest increase in it of $14 million for the increase of catching up with our our needs for special education area. The request of $14 million new dollars was not funded. The county once again held this primarily at the same funding level as fiscal year 20. There was a slight increase of $500,000. But this has an immediate impact in our ability to fund the new initiatives, including the 6.8 special education teachers, the increased costs related to non-placement, non-public placement tuition, as well as the contracted services costs due to the reduction that we've seen in the grant funds. And of course, we were attempting to catch up on the underfunding that had been going on in prior years. And so we would continue to languish in that state of this category being underfunded. And then there's insufficient funds approved to fund the salary increases that roll to state category 6. And there could be potential legal ramifications given the nature of our special education services. In state category 7, and this pattern rolls through essentially the next few categories, so I'll address them quickly. In each of these categories, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, the county funded everything at the same exact level as fiscal year 20. So any of the new dollars that were needed to pay for increases related to our salaries, any of the new dollars related to the increases needed for student transportation, any of the new dollars that were needed related to maintenance and operation of plant, none of those dollars were funded. And that's reflected in all of the negative numbers that you see there in the column to the right of the yellow column. So the immediate impact would be an inability to give salary increases in any of those categories, as well as afford any of the initiatives that were approved in the FY20 budget request by the board. State category 12, our fixed charges category. This is the category that is the companion category to all salary and benefit, to all salary and wage costs. All of the benefit costs associated with employees are paid for through state category 12 fixed charges. The BOE requested an increase of $14.7 million in this category, and the county approved budget held the funding constant at the fiscal year 20 funding level, so there were no new dollars associated there. The immediate impact to that means we would have no additional dollars to fund for all of the associated FICA, Medicare, Social Security, Medicare, and pension cost increases associated with our salaries, as well as our health insurance cost increases that are necessary for us to fund at the actuarially projected cost. The inability to fund health fund at the full cost projected by the actuary elevates the risk that the deficit in the health fund could grow larger in fiscal year 21. And it also means that we would have an inability to fund the pension costs that are associated with all of the raises. One thing I want to note is included in the board's request of $14.7 million, if you recall, the board request also had a $6 million one-time request from the county to pay down the health fund deficit. The county did not provide the revenue for that. The expenditure side of that gets reflected in this category. So $6 million of the $14.7 million that you see increasing here was associated with the one-time pay down. So that gets reflected in state category 12. State category 14 was community services, and that is funded at the same level as the prior year, which was also the same level as requested by the BOE. So there would be no immediate impact. And then our final state category is state category 15, capital outlay. There was a request for $38,000 new dollars associated with salary increases in this category. Once again, the council held the funding in that category constant at the FY20 level. So there are no new dollars appropriated, and the immediate impact would be no funding available for any of the increases in that category. So that summarizes the immediate impact. If the board has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Conforti. And